magnificent story ever. From creation to Jesus, the Line It Up series.
Hey guys, I'm Michael from eKid.
That's me.
So check it out. We're going to learn these big topics.
Creation, the fall, promises, slavery, Passover,
Law.
kingdom, temple, exile, and of course Jesus.
We'll even talk about the Psalms. In the Old Testament, guys, there are some ups and there are some downs.
Down, down, down.
And all these ups and downs actually lead to Jesus.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Yep.
So God created the whole world. Things were good. But then we messed up. So that's bad. But the thing is that God promised to help us. He gave us covenants, and like a covenant's like a deal, like, you know, shaking hands. It's like a deal. So God made deals with us to make things better. But guess what we did? We messed up. We didn't follow the deal. And the Israelites ended up in slavery. Bad again. But what ends up happening is people turn their eyes to God, they begin following God again, and then He saves them, and they have the Passover about how God saves His people. They end up crossing the Red Sea and being free again. And when they cross that Red Sea and they're free, God gives them the law, a bunch of rules and things. But for now, know that they didn't exactly obey the law that well, and things got worse. Instead of really wanting God to be their king, well, they wanted to have people as their king. So they created a kingdom. Some of that's good and some of that's bad. But what's great is that they built a temple to worship God in. So that's a good thing. And after that, the worst thing happens is they end up in exile because they turn their eyes from God again. And exile means that they were told to go away from their home and didn't rule their own home. So that was really bad. But later, in the New Testament, we find that the answer to all this is Jesus. See this over here? We have God who's like good.
Yep.
Everything's fine. God's good. When we're close to God, things are good.
Yeah, but...
We're down here because when we're not close to God, bad. But what God does to help us to get closer to Him is salvation. Check this out. The Old Testament shows us salvation over and over and over and over and over.
Over and 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 over again.
Things are good. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again.
Over and over and over. And that's called salvation. And that's called salvation. In your life, you might do bad things. But when you turn to God, that's called salvation.
Wow.
The first time you ever do it, you get saved.
Yep.
So you guys ready to hear the next story? All right, check it out.
And now it's time to learn about the kingdom.
All right, time out, guys. We got to explain some stuff before we get into this next story. Now, remember way back when we talked about how Joseph ended up being sold into slavery, and then he worked through that, ended up working for a king or a pharaoh, and then Moses ended up being in the house of the pharaoh or a king? Well, like lots of people had kings back then, but the Israelites, well, they didn't. They had God as their king, and they should have thought, hey, God's a great king, right? And you saw that we've talked about how God passed over them and and kept them safe, and how He parted the Red Seas and they went into the wilderness, and like God had saved them from slavery. But the people said to God, hey man, we kind of want a king. So, well, that's what happened. They wanted a king. So let's see what happens when they get a king.
Samuel was a judge over Israel. At this time, Israel had no king, but they wanted a king. Samuel was getting old, so he let his sons, Joel and Abijah, be rulers over Israel. But Joel and Abijah were not good judges like their father was. They weren't fair in how they judged. They were dishonest. The leaders of Israel went to Samuel. You were a good judge, they said, but your sons are not like you. We don't want them to lead us. We want a king. The other nations around Israel had kings. The Israelites wanted one too.
Yeah, but...
Samuel didn't know what to say, so he prayed to God. Samuel, give the people what they want, God said. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting me as king. Give them what they want, but make sure you warn them what it will be like to have an earthly king. Samuel told the Israelites what rights an earthly king would have. A king could make their sons serve in the army. He could make their daughters work for him, or he could take away their fields and servants. Samuel warned the people that they would regret wanting a king. The Israelites didn't care. Give us a king, they replied.
Wow!
Meanwhile, a wealthy man named Kish was looking for some of his donkeys that had wandered off. Kish told his son Saul to take a servant with him and search for the missing animals. Saul was taller and more attractive than any of the other Israelites. Despite his search, Saul was unable to find the donkeys. He was ready to give up. Wait, his servant said. There is a man of God in this city. Let's talk to him. Maybe he knows where we can find the donkeys. Saul and his servant found the man of God. It was Samuel. Don't worry about the donkeys, Samuel said. They have been found. Samuel invited Saul to have dinner with him. The next morning, Samuel told Saul that God had chosen Saul to be the king of Israel. Saul was surprised because he was from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel. Samuel used oil to anoint Saul. You will be king, Samuel said. Samuel gave Saul some instructions and sent him home. The Spirit of God was with Saul. Sometime later, Samuel gathered the Israelites to present Saul, their new king. But where was Saul? They couldn't find him. God said, "There he is, hidden among the supplies." The people ran to get Saul, and Saul stood among all the people. "Long live the king," they said. The Israelites demanded a king, so Samuel anointed Saul. God intended for a heavenly king to rule over them, but the Israelites didn't trust God's plan. God had a plan to one day send his son Jesus to rule the entire world.
And now it's time to learn about the temple.
Okay, cool. So some kings are good, some kings are bad. Got it. Well, let's talk about a good king called King Solomon and how he built something really, really cool. And it wasn't that he built something cool for him, he built something cool for God. So I want you to think about something. While you're watching this, think, where does God live? Because we'll see that God kind of lives in a certain place in this story, but then later God lives somewhere else. I'll give you a hint. He lives in us. All right, check it out. Solomon was king of Israel after his dad, David, died. God made Solomon super wise, so Solomon began to build a temple for the Lord. Solomon ordered a bunch of workers to build the temple. They cut cedar logs and stone blocks and laid a foundation and built the outside of the temple. God blessed the temple and promised Solomon, "If you obey my commands, I will keep the promise I made to David. I will live among the Israelites, and I will not abandon my people." So they built the temple in just 7 years. Dude, it was beautiful. The cedar paneling inside was carved with ornamental gourds and flower blossoms, and pure gold was like everywhere. Solomon had guys make bronze things for the temple, like bowls for water. When the temple was finished, Solomon moved the Ark of God from Mount Zion to the cool new temple. See, Solomon gathered the leaders of Israel as the priests moved the ark to the most holy place in the temple. So King Solomon and the leaders sacrificed sheep and cattle to God, and then, when the priests came out of the temple, the cloud filled the temple. Whoa! God's glory was in the cloud. Solomon turned to speak to the Israelites. Praise God, he said. God promised David that his son would build a temple, and God kept his promise. Solomon stood and prayed with his hands spread out towards heaven. There is no God like you, he said. Then Solomon thought about the future. He knew Israel would sin and be angry again, so Solomon asked for forgiveness, and he asked God to hear their prayers. When Solomon finished praying, he encouraged the Israelites to love and obey God. People returned to their homes joyful because God was good to them. See, the temple was a place where God was good to his people. They would go there to make sacrifices and worship God. But today, when we trust in Jesus, he is with us wherever we go. Instead of going to a temple to be with God, now we are the temple.
Sorry about the next part, guys. Dad did not want to be on the screen.
So guys, with this Line It Up series, we've learned that there are some really good things and some really bad things. And of course, we're learning right now about the kingdom, and we're also learning about the temple. Now the kingdom, I would say it's kind of a bad thing because of the fact that God wanted to be our king, but we wanted to have our own king. But I think the temple's a really good thing because God showed us a place where he wanted to live. But what's even cooler is that today, God wants to live in you. Wow, that's amazing. Let's talk more about that. All right, I love you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
The most magnificent story ever. From creation to Jesus. The Line It Up series.